be prepared. We're not watching that. No, not yet. 100% not yet. We're gonna watch. I'm gonna watch that. That's him, pain, trying not to get pain videos tomorrow. But today we're gonna be watching this. And this
Student loans.
It's loud in my ears. I did not know that. I forgot about that. But I already watched one story of this. It was a good story. It was the story that we've all watched before on this channel. This an ad. Great. Come on, dude. Why does it have to be freaking ad? So it just reminded the beginning of this story. Actually, no, we haven't watched this story before. Well, you guys haven't. I have. So just go to the beginning. Okay, before I start, I've already watched this story before. Not all of these though. I'm gonna watch the first, and it was a good story. So.
This is a story that took place back when I was living with my ex-girlfriend Jasmine. I had recently moved from my parents' house and into an apartment complex where it was surprisingly quieter compared to the suburban area I was used to. Jasmine and I were both college graduates who worked full-time in our respective fields of study. I was in the construction business as I was always a blue-collar kind of guy who enjoyed hands-on work revolving around the trades industry. Jasmine was a financial advisor, so she usually got to work from home while I had the usual 9-to-5 that I've become accustomed to for the latter part of my life. On my off time, I would usually hang out with Jasmine at our local park or simply kick back and binge watch several shows on Netflix till I had completely passed out. Going to our local park around the evening time became a daily occurrence of ours, as rowing back and forth on the swings was Jasmine's way of de-stressing just before the very next day at work. This became a daily routine of ours since moving into the new neighborhood, just so we could feel more comfortable within our new whereabouts. Well, at least with the exception of Saturday nights, when I usually video called 3 close friends of mine from where I originally resided.
Okay, before I start again, the ending is the scariest of this episode, so. Not this episode, this story.
Their names were Joe, Max, and Steve. This was a way I could stay connected with my friends, as I didn't want to tarnish my friendships with them, nor did I want to be known as the odd friend who cuts people off because he was quote-unquote whipped.
Hey Rick, how's your stay over there?
Must be good getting some action without your parents in the next room, huh?
No comment.
Hey boys, we gonna keep talking about Ricky's love life or we gonna get this party started? Cheers to that, Stevie boy.
Dang, what's the rush? We have all night, dude. Alright, who wants to go first?
This was how me and my friends socially interacted with one another. We shared our personal scary stories and videos from around the internet that would be categorized within the horror genre. My friends and I have been horror addicts since childhood, so geeking over anything horror related was equivalent to our summer camp days back when we were still in elementary school. I didn't want to abruptly end the so-called tradition we had established despite living miles away from them, so I would make sure I video called them every so often. I recall dozing off from the lackluster stories being shared by my 2 friends Joe and Max, until it was Steve's turn to share his story.
You guys ever been on the dark web?
No, not me.
Not me.
Dude, don't tell me you actually went on it.
I personally didn't, but my younger brother did. He recently showed me this weird snuff film the other day that I thought you guys might like.
I personally felt intrigued by the idea as I didn't know or see much content regarding the dark web. All I knew was that it was a hidden browser that sold illegal products you would find on the street, except everything was online, or at least on the dark side of the internet. That's when Steve extemporaneously invites his younger brother in his room and introduces him.
Hey boys, say hi to my brother Eric.
What up, dude?
What's up, Eric?
You guys want to see something cool? Hell yeah.
Sure, dude.
This better be good or else I want 5 minutes of my life back.
Eric shares his screen and opens up a video from an array of MP4 files shown on a folder. I then saw a low-quality video of a woman suspended in midair with her arms and feet attached with steel chains. She was oriented in this awkward bird-like position, almost like her perpetrator had no intentions of providing any circulation to the woman's extremities. I could see this poor lady desperately wailing through the duct tape on her mouth while hopelessly trying to free herself by vigorously shaking her arms and legs.
KDA, should we show them how we do it every day?
I remember gasping in awe as I didn't know if this was some sort of weird hoax or if this was a legitimate snuff film about to unfold. That's when I heard a loud sound abruptly come from the background, like someone was revving an engine to a motor of something. I then saw a large man approaching the woman while wearing a pig mask and holding a running chainsaw in a barbaric fashion. It looked like some psycho wanting to Renaissance Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, based on the way he held the chainsaw and the attire he presented himself in.
You're my lucky number 20. You know that? I never thought I'd reach this milestone, you know? All that hard labor, just to get to you. Do you even know what you put me through? Huh? Tell the people watching at home how much you appreciate my hard work. Say it! That's what I thought. You're going to be the best doll I've ever had. You complete me.
Rick, what the hell is going on? What are you watching?
Jasmine, get out! I don't want you seeing this! That's when the pigman began to pierce the chainsaw into the woman's arms and legs as each limb dropped from her torso and was left dangling from each chain. No. This can't be real. What kind of sick person would do this to someone? I remember feeling the sensation of a trickle of blood running down my nostrils as I see my friends visibly shaken up by the footage. The woman had all 4 of her limbs dissected by the chainsaw as she eventually collapsed on the floor and began having a seizure. I abruptly end the video call. I couldn't watch that anymore. I decided to message my friends through a group chat saying that I was throwing in the towel and heading to bed. Trying to comprehend what had just occurred was almost impossible. I couldn't help but tremble in the same spot for about several minutes. I eventually end up crawling into bed and laying next to Jasmine while trying to force myself to sleep and not think about what transpired on that video chat. This is when the story gets more disturbing. Fast forward about 2 years, my life has taken a drastic turn for the worst. My girlfriend and I mutually agreed to separate while my dad passed away at the age of 45 due to heart failure, leaving my mother and 3 children, including myself, alone. I never felt so depressed in my life. I would sometimes spontaneously cry at work while trying to hide my emotions from the other employees. It honestly felt like the days were getting longer and my weekends were getting shorter as time went on. I couldn't help but think that that video was some kind of curse. I remember being at the stage where I had completely isolated myself from everyone around me, including my close relatives. I eventually developed an obsession over the dark web and installed a Tor browser on my laptop. I wanted to climb further down the rabbit hole. I wanted to see if I could discover anything related to the pigman or the woman he had mutilated that night. I recall surfing the Hidden Wiki only to come across a few links selling various weapons, illegal services, and narcotics. I obviously wasn't interested in such things, so I began browsing some more. After 2 hours of intense searching, I found similar style images of females having their extremities amputated and then being sold as so-called dolls. I then came across an MP4 file on the homepage of one of the links on the Hidden Wiki. I pressed play and saw a video of a woman swinging back and forth on a swing with a paper mask on her face. This honestly looked like the same setting as the previous video. I then saw the same large man approach her as he kicked the poor lady off of the swing and began yelling, "Bark for me! Now walk, doll!" That's when the amputated woman began walking on all fours as if she was a stray dog or something. As the pigman got closer to the camera, I could see he was wearing what looked like the skin face of an actual human. What makes the story more disturbing was how similar the skin mask looked in comparison to Jasmine's face. From the identical freckles to the skin complexion to the swing, all the pieces were starting to add up as I genuinely believed this woman could potentially be my ex-girlfriend Jasmine. I then Googled Jasmine's name, only to find her in a missing persons report. Several months later, my speculation would finally come to a halting stop as Jasmine's body was found in a black garbage bag, located in a dumpster outside a meat market. At the time that this occurred, Jasmine was found unresponsive and in critical condition. She was eventually taken to the hospital and miraculously survived her injuries. About a year or two after her recovery, she was given a formal unpublished interview, but it was reported that she had suffered from severe Stockholm Syndrome.
Okay, this is about it. It's almost there to the scary part.
This is what it looked like.
There it is. She looked like this. This is actually a true story, I guess.
Today is currently Wednesday the 21st. The time is approximately 3 p.m. in the afternoon. We are here with Jasmine, who will briefly answer questions based on her current health and share her story. Now Jasmine, if you feel uncomfortable at all during the interview, feel free to let us know and we'll take a break, okay?
I want to return home to Master's Swing, where the world is divine and the dolls are beautiful.
So, first and foremost, how is your health today?
I want to return home to Master's Swing, where the world is divine and the dolls are beautiful.
Jasmine, how would you describe your experience while being held in captivity?
I want to return home to Master's Swing, where the world is divine and the dolls are beautiful.
Can you describe your captor's appearance? Jasmine, are you okay? Do you need some water?
I want to return home to Master's Swing, where the world is divine and the dolls are beautiful. I want to return home to Master's Swing, where the world is divine and the dolls are beautiful.
Can you please tell us what his name is?
Swing, where the world is divine and the dolls are beautiful. I want to return home to Master's
Jasmine,
Swing,
please,
where the
disclose
world
your
is
captor's
divine
name
and
to
the dolls
us.
are beautiful. I want to return home to Master's Swing.
Tell us his name,
where the world
damn
is
it.
divine and the dolls are beautiful.
Tell
I
us
want
his
to return
name.
home to Master's Swing, where the world is divine.
What is
and the
your
dolls are
master's
beautiful.
name?
His name is Pigman.
It's Pigman. Okay, that.
This is simple. He just got a champion in Raid Shadow Legends, and you can
This is a story that took place when I was around 18 years old. I still get the creeps just thinking about it. The mental trauma I endured from the horrendous depictions of what transpired several years ago still appear in my head from time to time. I currently see a psychiatrist to help ease the mental anguish, as I now have a tendency of spasming out during my sleep from the nightmares that manifest every night. It all started when I was in my freshman year in college. I was studying to be an accountant, which was relatively difficult considering the overwhelming amount of math that went along with it. I worked a lot of jobs on the side, apart from doing school full-time, such as being a part-time cashier at a coffee shop located in the building of my school campus. Getting paid minimum wage obviously didn't suffice my financial situation, which is why I applied to various jobs online for the latter part of my downtime during work. Paying off student loans wasn't an easy thing for students coming fresh off high school like myself, which is why I would take any small gigs I could get my hands on, like mowing the grass or shoveling snow during the wintertime around my neighborhood. I even started babysitting for any close friends or relatives of mine, which is why I tended to ask around the family, and even went as far to ask my fellow colleagues, despite the obvious desperate aura I gave off. I realized that babysitting was the perfect gig for me, as it gave me the opportunity to focus on my schoolwork while the kids were usually masqueraded in the background, playing their video games or were asleep in their beds. There was this one guy in my class named Jack, who I would usually do assignments and exam preparations with, who referred me to this one babysitting gig he was fond of. "Hey, do you still need a babysitting job?" "Of course, dude. Do you have any?" "I do. My dad's friend has been asking around for anyone who wants to babysit his kids." "Hell yeah. Sign me up, dude." "Well, there's a catch. One of the kids is apparently older than us, like in his mid-20s. "What the hell? Why would I babysit a grown man?"
Yeah, exactly.
"Well, not to be rude, but he is a little cuckoo. I even remember babysitting for them one time, and it was definitely an interesting experience." "How so?" "He's just a weird individual. Imagine a 5-year-old in a grown man's body. That's how it was like, but
Makes sense.
at least his parents paid me pretty well." "How much?" "About $200 a night, plus tip if you did a great job, or if you make it out there alive. You still interested?" Sure, dude." That's when Jack sends me the contact information.
Wait, did he say, or if you make it out alive? Wait, hold up. I need to hear that again.
"How much?" "About $200 a night, plus tip if you did a great job, or if you make it out there alive. You still interested?" Sure, dude." That's when Jack sends me the contact information of the family, as I sat and pondered if taking the gig was a smart idea. I couldn't help but think of my school loans, which is why I highly considered taking the job, as I was in desperate need for any extra income without too much interference in my schoolwork. Regardless or not, I ended up saving the details on my phone and began sitting through the rest of the class lecture till it was time for dismissal. I remember taking public transit when heading home, as I decided to give the number a text, asking if there was any demand for babysitting services readily available. The number texted back, asking who I was and how I got their number.
They actually said who I was and how I got their number. They didn't say, who are you? How did you get this number? They didn't put the effort in to actually say what they would actually say.
I then responded with my name Matt, and how my friend Jack referred me. The individual then asked if I could babysit for a duration of an entire weekend, which consisted of 3 days and 2 nights. I was honestly hesitant on taking the deal, but eventually came to terms with it, as the thought of $200 a night plus a tip was a bargain I couldn't turn down.
$200 a night. That's 3 nights. That's $600 plus tip if you do good. Dang, babysitters get a lot of money.
When the day finally came to fruition, I made my way there by taking an Uber and getting dropped off at the address given. As I approached the front of the house, I could see a vague figure staring at me from behind the curtain of the window upstairs. I assumed that it had to be the older son my friend Jack was talking about. I casually approached the doorstep and began knocking on the door, only to be kindly greeted by the parents and the younger son of the family. "Hey Matt, it's nice to meet you. Hey, listen, I left you guys around $200 on the kitchen counter, just in case you wanted to order something." "Awesome, thank you so much. You guys are coming back Sunday morning, right?" "Yes, sir. I'm sure you'll have a blast taking care of my children." Is there any other kids I should be introduced to?" "Yes, of course. Here's my youngest son, Timothy. And our oldest son, Charles, he's probably upstairs watching TV or something. Charles! Come downstairs and say hi to your babysitter!"
Me no like strangers.
Meet Editor X, the world's most advanced website design platform. Made for
Get down here or else you're grounded.
Leave me alone or I call cops.
Sorry for the inconvenience, Matt. You'll eventually run into him. He's usually more friendly when you get to know him. That's alright. I just hope he doesn't mind my company. That's when the dad and mom abruptly zone out, as if my statement had triggered a gaunt emotion. I was a little puzzled at their stare, as it legitimately looked like their souls had left their bodies. That's when the dad snaps out of it and says, "I think you guys should be fine. me and my wife need to go and celebrate our anniversary now, okay? Just don't forget to fill the Chihuahua's dog bowl when it's empty, and call me if you need anything. Alright, Matt? Okay, sir. Throughout the day, I spent the latter part of my time studying and working on school assignments, while the younger son Timothy played video games on his PlayStation console in the living room. I found it quite peaceful, as the son didn't require much maintenance, nor did the other son, who was allegedly still upstairs in his bedroom. As the sun began to set, I couldn't help but fix myself a sandwich, as my stomach began to rumble. I remember asking Timothy if he wanted me to fix him something, but it was pretty evident that he was too invested in his video game, while simultaneously chomping on a bag of chips he had sitting next to him. That's when I made it to the kitchen and began spreading peanut butter and jelly on a slice of
That ain't no peanut butter. That's just normal butter. I swear that's some normal butter. That's not peanut butter. Peanut butter is not that color. It's brown.
bread on the counter. I then saw a family portrait sitting next to the windowsill of the kitchen. I noticed it was a picture of the parents, Timothy, and of course their older son, Charles, who
Who's that girl on the left?
happened to skyscrape over the entire family from how tall he was. I was a bit taken aback that now I was faced with the responsibility of taking care of a grown man of his stature, considering he was older and a lot bigger than I was. As I surveyed the kitchen, I began to see more family portraits, except the majority of them had another younger boy in the photos. That's when I began to head back to
That's a boy? That's a girl.
the living room and couldn't help but ask Timothy who the other boy was in the family portraits. Timothy then responds with, "His name was Max, and he was my older brother who passed away." "I'm sorry to hear that. If you don't mind me asking, how did he die?" Apparently my Rottweiler bit him to death while my parents were out of town, which is why they had to give him away and get a Chihuahua." "Oh my god. I'm so sorry. If I tell you something, do you promise not to tell anyone?" "Yeah, of course. What is it, kiddo?" "I don't believe it was the dog. I believe it was Charles that killed him." "Why do you say that?" "Because he's a spoiled brat and I hate him." "Why do you hate—
Why you talk about me?
Leave us alone, Charles!"
Me no like him, and me no like you.
"Hey, it's finally nice to meet you, Charles. My name is Matt."
No, it's not. Your name is Liar.
"No, Charles, my name is Matt."
You liar! You believe him and no believe me.
"Charles, I do believe you. Okay?" That's when Charles made his way back to his bedroom upstairs, while intentionally pounding his feet on the staircase and yelling stuff like,
You let Doggy kill baby Max. That's why he died, you liar.
I then offered to play video games with Timothy.
Oh, the 360. Why is it missing A? There's no A there. The A is usually... Oh, you guys can see it. Right there. And, okay, he's probably has his finger over the A, but the A is usually right there.
Timothy, while Charles began making obstructive noises like banging his fists against the wall. I was honestly terrified, but I tried disregarding it, as I wanted
Just hang out with a young kid. He looks like he knows what to do. He looks like he knows how to handle it. And just find a weapon. And once the parents get back, just say they were good kids, get their money, and never come back.
to comfort Timothy, who was visibly upset and shaken from the whole confrontation with Charles. The time was around 12 in the morning when it was time to head to bed. I remember tucking Timothy in his bed sheets and then discreetly walking past Charles's bedroom, in which I could vaguely see him staring at me through the small opening of his door.
He's about to try to kill you. I know. Because he looks like a murderer.
"Hey Charles, do you need me to get you anything before bed?"
Yes, me want you go get cup of Timothy's blood.
Sorry, Charles, I can't do that.
Me want to drink your blood then.
Charles, please stop joking, it's not funny.
Me no try to be funny.
Me just want revenge. Revenge? Revenge for what? Me want revenge for Max. That's when Charles slammed his door on my face, as his intimidation had me shaken to my core, as I began stumbling to the guest room in fear. I then crawled under the bed sheets and honestly couldn't help but think of what.
Lock your door. If you don't have it locked, then put a chair there and then put something else that will block you there until you know you cannot get in. And wait till morning. Go check on, I think his name's Timothy. And get out of the house.
What Charles meant by revenge for Max, and why the hell he would ask for a cup of mine or Timothy's blood. Nonetheless, I disregarded the bizarre encounter and began watching some movies on the television to hopefully lull myself to sleep. About an hour later, I had awoken from my sleep from a loud thud in the hallway. I decided to check my cell phone for the time. That's when I saw about 100 missed calls and texts from the parents of the boys. I was a bit annoyed at myself as I could tell that they'd been trying to reach out to me since their initial departure, but my phone was irresponsibly on silent. I then scanned through the messages and could see texts.
Don't forget to give Charles his meds before bed, or please find the med, or please find the meds by sitting by the kitchen table. He needs to take 2 tables before bed to eat every day.
Saying stuff like, "Don't forget to give Charles his meds before bed," or "Please find the meds sitting by the kitchen table. He needs to take 2 tablets before bedtime every day. Don't forget to give Charles his meds before bed," or "Please find the meds sitting by the kitchen table. He needs to take 2 tablets before bedtime every day." That's when I immediately sprung up from my bed to head to the kitchen. As I opened my bedroom door, I could see Charles standing next to Timothy's bed, covered in blood. I could also see the walls and ground of the hallway smeared and stained as well, as it honestly looked like a bloodbath or a scene pulled from the horror movie The Shining. "Charles, what the hell happened?" That's when Charles gave me a sinister smile, with blood all over his mouth. I began to zoom past him and into Timothy's bedroom. I then saw Timothy laying on his bed, with half of his face obliterated, and his chest cavity opened up, as if a stray dog had viciously tore his limbs to shreds.
So Timothy was right. It was... I forget his name. What's his name?
His internal organs
What's her dog? How did the dog get that?
were scattered all over the bed, while his bed sheets were completely soaked in blood. I noticed the Chihuahua was sitting next to Timothy's remains, while whimpering heavily, as if it was just as appalled as I was. No! The dog ate him.
Huh.
Win Simple, one of the best esports pros in the world, gets his own champion in Raid. You know you have to have him on your side.
All you gotta do is download the game, log in for 7 days, and he's all.
I was a 21-year-old male
Bro, that guy's going backwards, dude. Look at the background.
living in the outskirts of the city.
If he was going forward, then these would go like that, not like that.
I personally enjoyed living in a rural area, as I found it more peaceful than living in the city, where it was often congested with hordes of pedestrians roaming the streets. The area where I resided was made up of crop fields and farmland streets.
Wait, there's a guy over there. Look at that.
The area is often congested with hordes of pedestrians roaming the streets.
I hope you guys see that guy right there.
Where it was often congested with hordes of pedestrians roaming the streets. The area
Oh my god, I miss it. Pause. You know what?
where I resided was made up of crop fields and farmland, not the common.
Right there. Boom. Look at that guy right there. You guys see him? Yeah.
The area where I resided was made up of crop fields and farmland, not the commonly seen infrastructure I was used to seeing in the city. It was nothing but just farm animals and broad landscapes glistening within the horizon. I usually was in the city for
that guy right
landscapes.
Yeah, right there. Huh.
Glistening within the horizon. I usually was in the city for the latter part of my day, as I was a full-time Uber driver that worked
Dang, he's speeding if he's going that fast. Like, look at the tree.
close to 12 hours a day. I personally didn't like the job a whole lot, but unfortunately I didn't have much of a choice, as I needed to help my parents pay off their mortgage that was lingering over their shoulders for the last decade or so. I wasn't much of a people person, so I would always drive in silence or casually have the radio playing in the background, just to ease the subtle awkwardness of a complete stranger sitting in the passenger side next to me. I remember on this one particular night, I was heading home from a long shift of driving a bunch of drunk college students around the city, considering it was the weekend. The time was around 2 or 3 in the morning when I was driving through the back ends of the countryside, as it was usually the quickest route to get home. It was generally recommended not to take this direction during these times, as there wasn't many streetlights around, just tall crop fields and one gloomy road ahead.
Oh my god, I just got jump scared by that deer. Oh my god, the window got cracked. Oh. Why are you scared?
What the hell was that? I remember getting out of my car and slowly approaching the front bumper just to see what the hell collided with my vehicle.
You didn't see it was a deer.
I can recall seeing a deer's body laying lifelessly on the dirt road.
It's still moving its head. You're fine. Also, why are you scared that you hit a deer? I mean, I know it happens all the time, but free food.
It was almost as if the sudden impact from my car had completely obliterated the deer's physical frame into a bloody matter of guts and organs scattered all over the ground.
No, a car cannot do that. I mean, a car could definitely run it over and open it, like cut the deer almost in half probably, but it cannot like cut the bones. There's no way.
The deer was surprisingly still alive, as I could hear it wheezing in agony while its legs began twitching from the initial shock of the collision. I legitimately felt sick.
Okay, just grab your gun, just end it right there. That's all you gotta do. You don't. That's just saving it by not dying slowly. What's wrong with your eyes?
To my stomach, and immediately went inside my car. I didn't know if calling 911 would be the wisest decision, considering I was young and naive. I was honestly convinced that there was a possibility that I could go to jail. That's when
What do you mean go to jail? It was a deer's fault. It ran through the middle of the road. god.
I ultimately decided to take matters into my own hands as I grabbed a pair of latex gloves from the glove compartment of my car. I put them on and held the
Jeez. That's a very flexible neck you got there, dead dude.
deer by its legs while manually dragging the dead
Oh no, now you're gonna go to jail because they're gonna think that that's human blood. Human blood.
carcass off to the side of the road. I began hearing police sirens coming from a distance. That's when the paranoia began settling inside my head, as I thought someone from afar had called the cops on me. I then went inside my vehicle and began to drive off, not caring if my car had further trampled whatever life was remaining within that deer.
You did it a favor. Good.
It's just a deer. It's just a deer.
Yep.
Don't worry, it's just a deer.
Yep.
It's definitely not a hit and run.
Nope.
I just made an honest mistake. How the hell could it be my fault if there's no goddamn streetlights? I eventually make it home and pulled into my driveway.
Oh, bro, you gotta walk. No, don't pull into your driveway. You have a garage. Go in there and wash your car.
As I decided to clean the remaining blood residue lingering on the hood of my car.
Okay.
I didn't want to raise any suspicion from any onlooking neighbors, so I decided to park my car inside my garage so I could hose my car without the feeling of being watched. After several minutes of intense cleaning, I decided to quietly approach my washroom without waking up my parents. I began to fill my bathtub up with warm water, as the idea of soaking for an hour or two wouldn't hurt my chances of calming my nerves down. The next couple shifts, I was able to get back on the horse as I conducted business as usual. I honestly swept the entire deer occurrence under the rug, as I needed to get on with my life and not latch on to a simple mistake that inevitably would have happened. I decided to take an entirely alternate route and not the dark back roads when heading home. I couldn't run the risk of hitting another deer, as the guilt from the first deer still tears me to shreds internally. I remember this one night, I worked the usual graveyard hours when I picked up this one girl near a busy location in the city. She surprisingly lived in the direction of where I resided, so I figured dropping her off was a bargain one couldn't refuse. As we made our way home, I remembered looking at my rearview mirror and seeing a rotting deer's head carcass laying on the back seat of my car. That's when I slammed my foot on the gas pedal and began jetting through the freeway as the Uber customer yelled,
What the hell are you doing? Sir, can you please pull over? I want to get out. Stop the car! Stop the car! Stop it! Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Let me out of your car, you freak!
That's when I abruptly swerved my car in the direction of the back roads where I had initially killed the deer. I gradually accelerated my vehicle through the field of crops and trees, while simultaneously contemplating if I was hallucinating or if my brain was playing sadistic tricks on me. I then casually drew my attention towards the passenger, and I could visibly see the woman's head turn into a deer's. It's just a deer. It's just a deer. Don't worry, it's just a deer. It's definitely not a hit and run. I just made an honest mistake.
You're going to jail. No, that was half an hour.
This happened to me recently, and I don't think I can work in a drive-thru again. I just moved out and got a job at Burger King. I always worked the night shift.
Is that a guy or a girl?
shift, as it had less customers, hence less trouble. My apartment was a 5-minute walk from my workplace, so I had no issue getting home late. Overall, it was an ideal job for me to begin with. At least, that's what I thought. It was a boring Monday night, and I was sitting by the counter watching YouTube videos when I heard a car pull into the drive-thru. I quickly put my phone aside and waited for the customer to drive up. As soon as the car approached the window, I said in a fake, joyful voice,
Welcome to Burger King. May I take your order?
"Yeah, we're hungry." I saw a man wearing a vibrant colored Hawaiian t-shirt sitting in the driver's seat. He had a disturbing stare, but that's not the only thing that was weird about him. He had a skeleton dressed up as a woman in his passenger seat. I couldn't decide whether it was creepy or funny, but I took the high road and let it slide.
May I take your order, sir?
"A Whopper for me. And what will you have, darling?" Now the situation took a creepy turn. The man kept talking to the skeleton as if it was a real woman. He was smiling and laughing and whispering into its ear, which it obviously didn't have. He went on with his insanity for another 5 minutes, and I still patiently waited because that's what was expected of me in this job. "Okay, so a Whopper for me, and she'll have a cheeseburger."
Sure, sir.
I handed him the order along with the receipt, and he paid in cash. Seeing his behavior, I could tell he thought the skeleton was a real person. He slowly...
He's just... You know... He should be on that one TV show, where they have strange addictions.
Drove away, and I sat by the window like a statue for at least half an hour. It took me some time to digest what just happened tonight. After that night, this man became a regular customer. Almost every other night, he came to our store dressed in the same manner with his skeleton girlfriend and ordered the same food. At some point, I too got used to it. I'm the person who loves minding her own business, so I never bothered to ask. I just did my job and he went on his way. One night it was raining heavily, and I was waiting for my shift to end so that I could go home. Suddenly, I saw the man pulling into the drive-thru. He ordered the usual and started talking to his skeleton girlfriend. Meanwhile, I found out that we were running short on cheese, so it won't be possible to make a cheeseburger for his skeleton girlfriend tonight.
Sir? I apologize, but we're running a little short on cheese. Can we substitute it with something else?
Oh no! But Jenny loves cheese. This is her favorite.
I understand that, but as I said, we are short on cheese. The triple Whopper is the same price. How about that?
But Jenny doesn't want that! She wants her usual cheeseburger! I was being polite to this freak the whole time, but when he screamed at me, I lost my calm.
Well, why don't you take Jenny where she belongs? Like, a graveyard?
The man widened his eyes and stared at me with an intense gaze. I expected him to be angry at this point, but surprisingly, he didn't get angry. Instead, a creepy grin appeared on his face. "Oh, I can see what's going on here. You're jealous. Jenny, she is jealous. Isn't that sweet? She's crushing on you, bae."
What the hell? Look, you freak. That is nothing but a skeleton, and no one is crushing on you. The truth is, you know you can't even get a real girlfriend. Maybe that's why you're putting on this freak show.
As soon as I said that, I saw the color of his face change. He didn't say a single word and drove away silently. A week passed by and he was nowhere to be seen. Even though I felt bad for being rude to a customer, he did get on my nerves that night. Hence, he gave me no choice. But after some time, he showed up again. This time, he didn't have the skeleton in his car. He came alone. I wanted to stay away from any kind of trouble, so I behaved professionally.
Your order, sir?
A Whopper for me. I delivered him the food and he handed me the money. I thought, thank God it's over. But things took a turn, as he took a U-turn and parked his car right across the street. He then sat on the hood of his car and started eating his burger while staring directly at me. The mayo was dripping from one side, and the ketchup was all over his mouth like blood. He was licking the mayo off his hand without breaking eye contact with me. He ate the entire burger like this, and then drove away. I mean, I can't explain this obscene behavior, but all I can say is, that night after going home, I took a long bath. I've never felt this disgusted ever in my life. The next day, I informed my boss about this man, because this was getting too much for me to take. He told me to call 911 immediately if I see him again. He also informed the other day shift workers about this guy. Everyone was on the lookout for him to come and get arrested by the cops for charges of harassment. But again, he didn't show up for weeks. Even though everyone told me this man was just a crazy freak and that he's gone, I knew he would come again. And he didn't prove me wrong. It was around midnight. I was packing my stuff to leave early that day. I already informed my boss about this when suddenly I heard car tires creaking in the near distance. It took me a fraction of a second to recognize the car. It was him, the odd customer. I dialed 911 right away and waited for him to approach me. As soon as he stopped near the window, I noticed something different this time. A girl was sitting next to him, and by a girl, I mean an actual person. I could tell she was heavily drunk. I could smell the strong odor of alcohol coming from her clothes. She was completely passed out in the passenger seat, and a terrifying feeling grabbed my heart. I knew this man must have lured her into his trap, because there's no way a sensible person would ever agree to hang out with this freak. He gave me a death-cold stare and smiled in the scariest way possible. "That's my girlfriend, and she is real. I can prove that to you." Before I could act on this manner, he took out a wrench from the car's glove compartment and stared at me one last time. "See for yourself. Here we go." He then started to bludgeon the girl ruthlessly. "She's real! She's real! She's real!" He kept screaming like a psycho while smashing her face with the wrench. Her body started to tremble like roadkill, but due to her stage of intoxication, she couldn't get the chance to scream once. I froze at the window. I couldn't believe what was happening in front of my eyes. The man kept beating her, even after her brains came out, gushing with blood splattering everywhere. "I told you she's real! Now do you believe me? Do you? You hoe!" I heard the sirens of the cop cars nearby, but I couldn't bear the sight anymore. I collapsed on the ground, screaming out loud. 2 days later, I woke up in the hospital. My boss came to see me. He told me that the cops caught the man red-handed. There's no question he's guilty of first-degree murder. The girl he murdered that night went to the local pub. He probably picked her up once she passed out and brought her to the drive-thru. The cops are making sure that this psycho gets what he deserves. I don't think I'll ever be able to erase that night from my mind. Is it my fault that the girl lost her life? Did I provoke the creep to do this? What do you think?
Welcome to this world. You have some big shoes to fill. Lots of new
But what I think about that story. I don't know. Wait, Ding Dong Ditch. I've never Ding Dong Ditch anyone. Except for my grandma, my mom, and Robbie's probably, that's it, actually.
This story happened a couple of years ago when I was a freshman in high school. I remember me and my buddy Jay would go play Nicky Nine Door, otherwise known as Ding Dong Ditch, which was a game where you would go to a random person's door and knock while running away before it got answered. Me and Jay loved to do this kind of thing, especially on Friday nights when the school week was over. We were the modern-day little rascals, looking to get a kick out of seeing any adults become annoyed by our childish antics. One day, during gym class, me and Jay sat on the bleachers while collectively discussing what potential houses we could prey on next. That's when Jay suggested our school janitor, Mr. G, as he casually mopped the side of the gym floor in front of us. Dude, let's hit his house tonight. Apparently his house is notorious for being nine-doored all the time. I don't think that's a good idea, dude. Didn't you hear his daughter died? Oh yeah. Poor little thing was getting teased too much for having pet squirrels. Pet squirrels? Yeah, she was the laughingstock of the school because it was rumored that Mr. G collected squirrels and brought them home just so his daughter could have some pets. Really? That's weird.
What in the hell are you two idiots looking at? Yeah, that's what I thought. Don't be talking about my daughter or any of my business before I dump this dirty mop water on your heads.
That's when Mr. G strolled away with his mop bucket, while me and Jay looked at...
How did he hear you guys? You guys were whispering. That guy must have some serious hearing.
each other and thought to ourselves that his house would be the perfect stakeout for Ding Dong Ditch later that night. A couple hours later, me and Jay would play Mortal Kombat Armageddon on my PlayStation 2, till it was dark enough to go outside and pay Mr. G's house a visit. As we walked down the neighborhood, Jay pointed out Mr. G's house, which was about 2 houses down from where we were standing. We played rock, paper, scissors to decide who was going to be the Ding Dong Ditcher, and, of course, as fate would have it, I lost with scissors, while Jay held rock. I casually approached Mr. G's porch without making it obvious to any potential onlooking neighbors that we were doing anything suspicious. As I slowly began to raise my balled-up fist to knock the door, it abruptly swang open, with Mr. G holding a large baseball bat, saying,
"I'm gonna kill you and make you eat my crap, you little squirms!"
That's when me and Jay made a dash for it, and began to run for our lives while Mr. G chased us with a baseball bat in one hand and a long piece of rope in the other.
"Stop running away, you little punks! You all wanted smoke, didn't you? Didn't you?"
I remember looking back for a split second and could see the crazed look in Mr. G's eyes, almost like he had been anticipating that someone would Nicky Nine Door his house again. As Jay and I glanced to our right, we unhesitatingly made a swift turn towards the direction of a large fence with a hole in it, which led to a forest preserve with a warning sign that said, "Danger, do not go beyond this point." We both disregarded the sign and quickly ran through the hole in the fence while trying to not slip on any branches or tree bark piled along the trail. It was about 30 seconds into the forest where I found myself hiding behind a large tree, while Jay was hiding behind one across from me. That's when I crouched down as I heard the footsteps of Mr. G stopping mid-trail, almost as if he knew we were within his parameters. I clasped both my hands over my mouth and began to pray in my head that he wouldn't approach either of us.
"Stupid kids. If I ever see you again, I'm gonna rip both of your heads off and feed them to my squirrels. You hear me? I know you little pieces of crap are the reason why my daughter is dead. I just know it. I know you two picked on her at school. Am I right? I swear to God, if I ever see you come by my house again, I will turn both of you to my kids. I'm lonely. I just need another child. And you pricks took everything away from me."
That's when I heard him slowly exit the woods, as his footsteps became more faint along the way. Me and Jay were so shaken up to the point where we remained hidden behind our respective trees for about a good 10 minutes before we thought it was safe enough to head back on the trail. I think the coast is clear. Dude, this is the last time I'm ever doing this. You think? How in the hell do we get home now? That's when me and Jay had to decide what our next move was. The issue was getting home, as we knew the only way out was through the hole in the fence. We obviously didn't want to run into the risk of encountering Mr. G again, so we both mutually agreed to go the opposite direction and find an alternative way home through the forest preserve. As we got deeper into the forest, I can recall stepping on a gooey substance, almost like it was a dead cat of some sort. Jay pulled out his cell phone and flashed his light towards my shoes, only to see a dead squirrel soaking in a puddle of its own blood. What the hell? Looks like a bear ate it. Dude, that looks gnarly. Jay then picked up the mutilated squirrel by its tail and asked me to take a picture of him with his cell phone. You're freaking sick, dude. He then dropped the dead squirrel on the ground, and we proceeded to head further into the trail. That's when we saw about a dozen mutilated squirrels scattered along the pathway. What the hell? Dude, we have to go back. Jay? I began to glance at Jay as he looked at me with a gaunt and horrific expression on his face. That's when I realized that he wasn't looking at me. He was looking behind me as he pointed past me with his trembling finger. I turned my head to look behind me, only to see a little girl sitting a couple of meters away from us, having a picnic by herself. As I squinted my eyes, I could see her chewing on a dead squirrel, as she then looks at our direction and said,
"Please bring me home to my daddy. I want him to know that I don't want to have a pet squirrel anymore."
That's when me and Jay ran back towards the direction of where we came from, as we couldn't believe what we had just witnessed. As we made it through the hole in the fence, we continuously ran through the neighborhood past Mr. G's house until we both made it home in our respective houses. I couldn't believe what I had just seen, as the thought of a little girl having a picnic in the middle of the forest while eating squirrels still gives me chills just thinking about it. What happened next was something I could not fathom or give any proper explanation towards. Jay ends up sending me a text and then immediately calls me. Hello? Hey dude, look what I just sent you. That's when I opened Jay's unread message, only to see the picture I had taken of him while he was holding the mutilated squirrel. Except, I can see the same girl from the picnic standing from a distance behind Jay. She was holding a dead squirrel as well, while replicating the same pose he was in. It's been a while since that incident occurred. I've been seeing a psychiatrist since, as a mental anguish from getting chased down the block with a baseball bat and witnessing what seemed to be the deceased spirit of Mr. G's daughter is something that still terrifies me to this day.
Your favorite things are 50% off. Need a quick gift? Order online and pick up in stores or curbside. Happy shopping! Exclusions apply. See site or ask in stores for details.
I was in my early 20s and was unfortunately unemployed. The stress of not having a job while living with the obligation of having student loans, in addition to the monthly payments for my student housing, always weighed heavy on my shoulders. I was a student majoring within the medical field, so it was always inevitable that the majority of my time was delegated to schoolwork and applying for jobs online, as I was living off the funds I made from my last retail job. The quality of my life at this time was both extremely stressful and depressing, as I would literally live off eating crackers and cheap instant noodle packs. I would even go as far as to sleep hungry sometimes, just to save every last dollar possible to help pay for my rent and school funds. I remember staying up late one night, as I had a biology exam coming up within a few days. I could recall being overwhelmed from the monotonous material I was drilling into my head when I heard a loud knock on my door. Sarah? Sarah, can you answer the door? It's Charlie. Hello? I know you're in there. I heard you watching TV 5 minutes ago.
Yes? What do you want, Charlie?
I need to talk to you. Can you please answer the door? Hey, Sarah. You know your rent is due, right?
I'll get it to you by tomorrow. I've just been a little flustered with school.
Don't worry. You can give it to me tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Charlie. You're a lifesaver.
To make it easier on you, I do take other forms of payment, you know.
I'm good. I'll just pay you tomorrow.
What's wrong, Sarah? I'm just trying to help a pretty little girl like you out. Don't you want my help? Don't worry. It'll only take 5 minutes tops. We'll act like nothing ever happened. Imagine not having to worry of paying a single bill again, Sarah, for just a measly 5 minutes of your time. Did I ever tell you that you look just as beautiful as my daughter?
I said I'm good.
You better pay me tomorrow, you little brat, or else you can get the hell out of my property! I've always had unsettling vibes from my landlord the day I moved in here, but unfortunately couldn't really do much, as the housing market for students around the area were either occupied or way over my budget. As busy as I was with school, I was always a social butterfly at heart, and had a pretty decent following on my social media. I unfortunately didn't make any money online, but I did have about a couple hundred fans in my DMs and comment section, asking if I had an OnlyFans. I, of course, didn't own one, as I was always hesitant in encountering weirdos within the online world. I really didn't want to run into the risk of being recognized by any school colleagues or relatives for that matter, considering the internet was a large place where anything could be shared or screen recorded nowadays. At the time that this occurred, I was extremely eager to make any form of income without having to deal with the hassle of working a regular job, which is why I ultimately decided to sign up for an OnlyFans account. I decided to take a couple of provocative selfies of myself while wearing some outfits that I thought would be appealing to the rather large male audience I had accumulated through my years on social media. I even went as far to take self-portraits of myself in bed, using a professional camera I had owned from a while ago. I remember uploading the catalog of images on my profile while promoting it on my Instagram story, just to see if there was going to be any first-time buyers willing to see the other side of me. I made sure to hide the stories from my close relatives, especially my mother, as I didn't want them knowing I wanted to explore the mature side of myself, and that I wasn't solely depending on making a living using OnlyFans. I can recall it not even being 5 minutes yet, when I noticed a notification on OnlyFans. I then refreshed my homepage, only to see that I got my first paid subscriber. If I had to be honest, I was quite thrilled at the notion that anyone would be interested in me, or should I say my looks. I remember the user then sending a message saying, "Hey beautiful, happy to be your first OnlyFans sub." I typed,
Thank you. Let me know if you'd like to see more.
The user then playfully requested for several provocative pictures of myself wearing lingerie. I felt a little uncomfortable hearing such a request, but I knew in the back of my head that this was going to take some getting used to, especially if I wanted to pursue a potential career on OnlyFans. Regardless of who this person was, I decided to take the requested pictures in front of a mirror using my cell phone. I then uploaded the images onto my laptop and charged the man a lump sum of $50 per photo. The man then responded, "I want to be your one and only customer forever." I obviously found this a bit alarming, but casually brushed it off by telling the user I was going to go study and that I was going to catch him later. I then made my way to the kitchen to make some instant noodles, while resuming the dreadful exam preparation I had procrastinated on since the beginning of the day. I remember studying for at least a good 2 hours straight before calling it a night. I then headed back to my bedroom, only to notice my laptop was still open and wanted to see if there was any further activity with my OnlyFans account. That's when I saw at least 100 unread messages coming from the same user that I had interacted with earlier. The messages varied from things like, "Where are you?" to, "Hello? I've been waiting for you for hours now," to really aggressive messages like, "Answer me, ho." This left me completely dumbfounded, as the user then seemed apologetic towards the end of the messages, as if he suffered from bipolar disorder. I honestly contemplated on blocking this guy, but as I scrolled through the messages, I noticed one of them offering to pay me $100 if I sent a video of myself crying on camera. I couldn't tell if this guy was joking or if it was some sort of sick fetish of his, but I decided to oblige as I really needed the money. I began to screen record a video of myself using my webcam and began to force myself to cry by thinking of sad things like the death of my grandmother or the divorce of my parents, and how my dad left my mom hanging to be a deadbeat dad. I eventually stopped the filming and sent the video to the user for a price tag of $100. Again, the user instantly replies in a matter of seconds with another odd request. His message read, "Cut a handful of your hair off using a knife, and I'll pay you $200. I felt pretty hesitant at first, but as I digested the odd request, I thought it would be an easy $200, considering how I always wanted to get a haircut anyway. I responded with a stern, "Sure, BRB," as I went into the kitchen to grab a knife from one of the kitchen drawers. As I stared into the reflection of the blade, I began second-guessing myself, as the thought of sadistically tearing my hair off with a blade seemed very inhumane. I unfortunately allowed my stupidity to completely overcloud my judgment, as I ended up biting on a piece of cloth while raising my hair with one hand, and then slowly cutting it off with the knife on my other hand. I remember trying my best not to make too much noise from my repugnant decisions, as the sheer distress from the back and forth carving of my hair left my scalp throbbing in an excruciating manner. I then shouted,
"There's your stupid video, you sick freak! You happy now? Huh? Huh?"
as I gestured a hand of my detached hair. That's when the user immediately responds with another sadistic request, saying, "Now, cut your finger off for another $200. I immediately dismissed the user using profanities and vulgar language, basically telling him to go F himself, as I simultaneously block his account. I then went into the washroom and began to sit in the bathtub to reflect on my bizarre decisions and what possessed me to do such a thing. I could then hear my phone vibrating on the bathroom sink several times from the notifications set on my phone. As I got out of the shower, I checked my phone, only to see the notifications were from a user with the same profile name on Instagram. I could tell that the user was obviously a stalker, as he had no followers, but was following at least a couple hundred others. I then opened...
Yeah. Outside.
Open the user's messages, only to see screenshots and video footage of what transpired within our OnlyFans interaction. As I scrolled up, I noticed a lengthy message from the user asking me to bring a knife to an undisclosed location if I didn't want him to send this to anyone else, almost like I was getting taunted and blackmailed at the same time. I ended up accepting the user's messages and replying with a firm,
"I'm gonna sue you if you don't delete those images and videos."
He then responds with an image of my mother's Instagram and says, "Is this your mom's Instagram?" I then reply with,
"What the f***? Don't do it! I'm begging you!
Go to the park now!
Okay, fine, you win. I'm leaving right now, you freak!
That's when I tucked the knife underneath the band of my leggings and began to walk towards the park. I then text the user for further instructions as I surveyed my surroundings at the park, only to see a homeless-looking individual laying on a bench. That's when I get another text from the user saying, "Since you didn't want to cut your finger off, cut his, and I'll leave you alone." I then pulled out the knife and began to approach the homeless man, as I could see he was completely passed out drunk from the empty alcohol bottle laying next to the bench he was sleeping on. As I cautiously approached the man, I began to elevate his pinky in midair with one hand while raising the knife with my other hand. I then swung the knife in one quick motion. That's when I ran back towards the main road as the man screamed in agony. I eventually made it back to my place and began panting in distress and exhaustion without making it obvious to the other individuals in the household that I had initially stepped out. I then abruptly
That light wasn't on left out there. And Mom's been in this room the whole entire day. Weird.
got a call on my cell phone. I was a little hesitant to answer the phone, considering I had not given.
Huh.
Given out any personal information to the user. As I pull out my phone, I can see that the call was surprisingly coming from my mom. I answered the phone and said,
Hello?
What the hell is wrong with you, Sarah? Why would you do that? Why? Have you freaking lost your damn mind? You're all over the damn internet!
This is an urban legend that allegedly took place around the early 2000s, back before social media sites like Instagram or Snapchat were even a thing. The source for the story was shared through the victim's roommate, who claimed that the following events were in fact true, and that they occurred within the residence he and the victim had lived at. There's been a lot of speculation whether the events of the story were fabricated or not due to the supernatural aspects of the proposed speculation. But from the testimonials of the victim's roommate, it makes it rather difficult to argue the legitimacy of it. It allegedly all began when a young man in his mid-20s had moved in with one of his colleagues from school to an old rundown apartment complex. We'll give the young man the alias George and his roommate Simon for better context. George was a young man who just recently moved out of his parents' house.
It's that easy.
Yeah, it's that easy, Grandma.
Wow, this is amazing.
House and into an apartment complex just 5 minutes away from the college he had enrolled in. It was alleged that George was a hardworking student, as he did school full-time in the mornings and worked full-time during the evenings. That meant that a lot of his life revolved around studying on the job while trying to make a living for himself and maintain the childhood dream of being an independent man he so desperately desired. George's life was unfortunately reduced to constantly working and schooling for a solid year or two, which carried a lot of weight on his shoulders. The repetitive nature of his lifestyle made him develop a lot of hatred towards the world, as the monotonous everyday routine made him have an edge that most of his colleagues didn't see prior to meeting him. His roommate Simon even described George's demeanor as bizarre and weird the longer he lived with him. Here's when the story takes a bizarre turn. Simon claims that the cause of George's odd behavior wasn't from school or work. He claims that it came from a cursed VHS tape that was played by George when Simon was out with his group of friends one night. The VHS tape was allegedly discovered by Simon when he came out of a local Blockbuster after renting a movie to take home. Simon then saw a tape sitting on the sidewalk in front of the store. What movie is this? The tape had no movie label on it, just a white strip on the edge with the words, "Play Me." Simon took the tape home as he figured it could be useful for recording a movie on his television. He then heads home and begins watching the movie he had initially rented.
Hey dude, I'm gonna head to bed, so I'll see you at class tomorrow.
Have a good night, dude. After I finish this movie off, I'm gonna check this thing out.
Check what out?
This VHS. I found it on the street and it says "Play Me."
Weird. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, dude. Have to wake up early for class.
Alright, later, dude. Simon then takes out the movie from the VHS player and pops in the "Play Me" tape, as his curiosity started distracting him throughout the film. The tape then begins to play. What ends up appearing on the TV was something Simon described as extremely bizarre and unsettling. It was a video of a man sitting on a boat in the middle of an ocean. He sat there quietly in one spot while the fluorescent light from the moon shined upon his silhouette. According to Simon, the film looked like some sort of strange stock footage that a low-budget creator had whipped up. What the hell is this crap? Who the hell wants to watch someone sitting on a boat for hours?
What did you say?
What the hell was that? Simon then got up from the couch and confusingly stared at the television, trying to comprehend if the words came from his head or the TV. Was that you who was just talking to me?
Yes. Perhaps you would like to see my face.
Okay.
Sure. I made no mistake, but sure.
That's when the man on the boat begins to aggressively paddle towards the TV as Simon begins to slowly backpedal in fear. What the hell? The man in the boat then makes his way up close towards the screen, only to show a face that looked exactly like Simon, as if his doppelganger was on the other side of the screen.
I need your help, Simon.
No! No! Leave me alone! No! George then approaches the living room and says,
Dude, what the hell happened?
My bad, dude. I must have accidentally fried it.
Jesus Christ, that's the last time you're ever watching a scary movie.
Several days after that incident, Simon replaces the TV in the living room and ends up heading out to hang with some friends, leaving George in the apartment complex.
No, don't head out. Stay home just follow George, because why not? George is not cursed.
Alone. George used most of his free time studying and working on school assignments, as he usually had the nights off on weekends. After about an hour or two of consistent rummaging of notes, George decided to finally take a break and watch a movie from his VHS collection. George then turns off his lights and attempts to insert his movie in the VHS player, only to notice it already being occupied with the Play Me tape. That's when George decided to press play using the remote, only to see the same video that Simon had seen before. Just a male silhouette casually sitting on a boat in the middle of an ocean. George sat there in silence as if he anticipated any further dialogue waiting to transpire within the next few seconds or so. As he looked further into the television, he could vaguely make out that the figure of the man was a figure similar to himself. That's when the man in the boat said,
Help me, George.
What the hell? Is that you talking to me?
Yes. I need you to fill up your bathtub with water. Can you do that?
Why would I do such a thing?
Please. I need
need your help, George. I need you to fill up your bathtub and do it in the dark. It's the only way this is going to work.
I just had an idea. A really good idea. I want that. Oh, we have a VHS player, I think. But I want to find that and see if I can see my face. And then just, if I do, then you'll be like, off. Bye. And if it don't turn off, then I'm just gonna break the TV and buy a new one.
Okay. That's when George heads to the washroom using the light from his BlackBerry cell phone and begins to fill the bathtub up with
Blackberry. Okay, I've heard of peach, cherry, and apple. Apple is the real one. Peach, GTA. The cherry one is... GTA 4.
water. He then heads back to the living room and says to the boatman,
Okay, boatman, I just filled the bathtub. Now what?
Great job, George. Now, throw something in the tub.
Like what?
Anything that can float. That's when George grabs a rubber duck from his washroom cabinet and tosses it into the bathtub. He then approaches the living room once more and says,
Okay, I did it. Now what?
George's jaw dropped as he saw the rubber duck floating next to the man on the boat. George then checked the bathtub using the light from his phone, only to see no trace of the rubber duck. He then heads back and repeatedly curses at the screen, saying,
What the hell is going on? Who the hell are you? How the hell did you do that?
George, now, fully submerge yourself inside the bathtub.
And why the hell would I do that?
For eternal happiness, silly.
Now do it, George! What? Get in the bathtub now!
George then frantically tries turning the TV off by repeatedly pressing the power button on the remote, but the TV remained on. He even went as far as ripping off the power cord from the wall outlet, but the TV still remained on.
You want me to drown, huh? Is that what you want, you sick bastard?
That's when George runs into the washroom and jumps straight into the bathtub.
What the hell? Where the hell am I? Somebody help me! Help!
And that's the story of the great urban legend of George. Some say the man he is today is the man that was once trapped in the video, as his former school colleagues claim that he had suddenly become timid and quiet. George's roommate Simon even testified to George's sudden change, mentioning how he has behaved different since and how he thinks the tape had something to do with it. In conjunction with the other testimonies from George's colleagues, Simon's final statement about George read, I wish George good health and prosperity. I must vouch that the man George is today is definitely not the person I once knew before.
So that's an urban legend. So I guess that's that tape's not real. Dang.
I was a full-time employee at Burger King and had worked a monotonous 10-hour shift every day. The quality of my life wasn't the greatest, as the countless hours of work were starting to become more and more strenuous. I desperately needed money, as I wanted to move out of my grandfather's house and into a residence of my own. My grandfather took the responsibility of taking care of me since I was an infant, due to the tragic loss of my parents. My mother and father had suffered a fatal car crash which granted my grandfather full custody of me. I began comprehending the news as I got older, but oddly enough wasn't too affected by it, as he fit the bill of being the best caretaker that a kid could ever ask for. Playing Duck Hunt was one of my favorite things to do whenever I wasn't so busy at work.
Ooh, Duck Hunter. Good Wii game. Very good Wii game. I think we have it. No, it's not a trailer.
My grandfather didn't own any consoles that you would use.
Advanced Genifique Serum, patented formula, 15 years of scientific research, accelerates.
Usually see in today's modern day. Just the old school Nintendo with the classic gun controller. Hey, Grandpa.
Don't worry about me, son. Pay attention to the game and get that birdie. That's it, Larry. Now go on. Shoot the birdie. Now!
Besides entertaining Grandpa with my spectacular duck hunt skills, I was usually serving customers at the drive-thru of Burger King. I always switched back and forth from the kitchen to providing customer service at the front counter. Our location...
I bet that's the kind of grandpa that would just go make you food whenever you're hungry. I would like that. I would just like be sitting, playing games, watching stuff, and be like, hey Grandpa, can you go make me a bacon cheeseburger?
Location wasn't usually as busy as most Burger King branches, as we were located by the corner of a quiet residential area, and there weren't many teenagers or kids around. Mostly just an older crowd that were either retired or just big.
Wait a minute. Listen. I know where this is coming from. I know where this is going. I've never watched this before, but I know. It's gonna be, someone of... I think it's Grandpa's gonna go missing. Probably.
Fans of our adversary, McDonald's. Working at Burger King for a long duration of my postgraduate time off made me familiarized with the regulars who would come to dine in. I was usually scheduled for the night shift, so the difference in crowd was pretty evident, as our venue always seemed to attract homeless people or loiterers around this time. Then there was this one guy who would always arrive around 9 p.m. every evening dressed as a Burger King mascot. It was pretty evident this guy was either some crazy lunatic or just a really huge Burger King fan who wanted to look the part. I always got a few laughs and giggles every time I saw him, as the mock-up of the Burger King mascot was pretty accurate but at the same time outlandish. As impressive as his getup was, I was more intrigued by the absurd orders he usually requested. I remember him approaching the front counter as I said, "Hi sir, welcome to Burger King. May I take your order?" The mascot then said,
"Give me 30 Whoppers."
"Sir, are you sure you want 30 Whoppers?"
"I said 30 Whoppers! Make Whoppers now!"
"Okay, sir, just the sandwiches, or would you like to make it a combo?"
"Have it your way."
The mascot then placed about $150 on the counter and began walking towards the seating area. I recall him sitting in one of the booths as the employees in the back began preparing the 30 Whoppers. About 10 minutes later, I bring the stack of Whoppers on a tray towards the mascot's table and notice he had his cell phone held up by a salt shaker with the video camera recording.
One of these guys. Oh, of course. It's one of these guys, aren't they? Where they're just recording, like, eating so much food. I kind of want to do that, except for I can do that because I have insanely fast metabolism, so.
I placed the tray down and casually walked back
That's a giant pile of Whoppers. Damn.
behind the front counter. I then saw the mascot completely demolish the Whoppers one by one. It appeared he was either filming a mukbang or just had a preposterous craving for Whoppers. I recall seeing the mascot eat a total of around 10 Whoppers out of the bunch and then pass out from the inevitable itis while drooling on the furniture. The time was around 12 a.m., which was when our restaurant closed for in-dining service, and also when it was the end of my shift. I knew in the back of my head that I had to politely escort the man out, so I slowly approach him as I see him snoring heavily. I gently tap his shoulder and say, "Hello, sir. I unfortunately need to ask you to leave as we're closing."
"Give me Whopper. Give me Whopper. Give me Whopper."
"Sir, I'm politely asking you to leave."
"Make me Whopper, then I leave."
"Sir, we can't do that. You need to leave now." I firmly secure my stance with an assertive poker face, while trying not to show any signs that I was nervous as hell. The mascot then gets up and walks out of the restaurant. Calling an Uber was completely necessary, as I wanted to avoid potentially being seen by that weirdo on the street or public transit. The time was roughly 1 a.m. when I made it home and immediately got in the shower. My paranoia began setting in, as all I could hear was weird noises coming from outside my shower curtain.
Grandpa, is that you?
That's when I heard the same Burger King mascot voice from earlier saying,
Open the door.
"What the hell? How'd you get inside my house?"
Open the door! Open the door! Open the door! Get the hell out of here! Fine, have it your way.
That's when the man grabbed a hold of the door hinges and repeatedly slammed his head against the door.
Get the hell out of my house or I'm calling the cops!
As the mascot continued slamming his head, I remembered my grandpa secretly keeping one of his handguns stashed in the bathroom cabinets. I took it out and pointed it towards the door as I said,
Please, please don't make me do this. Please just go. I have a lot to live for.
Here's Johnny!
The mascot successfully plummets his head through the door. Just then, I see my grandpa standing next to me. I shout,
Grandpa, help me! That's it, Larry. Now go on. Shoot the birdie. Now!
I pulled the trigger and said,
Look, Grandpa, I did it! I killed the birdie! Aren't you proud of your grandson? I still got it, don't I?
Don't tell me that was his grandpa. Oh, thank God. Alright, well, that's the end.